Waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. Coincidence or a spiritual calling? For as long as I can remember, I thought it was just stress, or maybe too much coffee, or anxiety about the next day. But almost every single night, I'd wake up. Always between 3 and 5 a.m., always in that haunting stillness when the world is asleep, and the silence feels almost louder than the day. At first, it annoyed me. I'd roll over, stare at the ceiling, and wonder what was wrong with my body. Why couldn't I just sleep through the night like everyone else? But deep down, I felt something I couldn't explain. It was like the air had weight, like something, or someone, was watching. Sometimes I'd feel a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Other nights I'd feel a warmth in my chest that would vanish the moment I questioned it. Was I going crazy? I never told anyone, not my husband, not my closest friends. I just kept it to myself, afraid they'd laugh or say, "You're just stressed, take a sleeping pill." But this kept happening, for months, then years, always between 3 and 5 a.m. And then, one morning, I sat up in bed, rubbed my eyes, and asked out loud, "God, are you trying to tell me something?" I didn't know it at the time, but that simple question would begin a journey that would take me beyond death itself. Yes, I died. And what I saw, what Jesus himself told me about those mysterious early hours, will shake your soul like it shook mine. But before I get there, I need you to understand who I was, because I was just like you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you also wake up between 3 and 5 a.m.? Have you ever felt like something spiritual was happening in those moments? Tell me in the comments. I'm reading them all. Your story matters, more than you know. My name is Rachel Moreno. I'm 39 years old, and I live in Lisbon, Portugal. I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend. I work as a nurse, a profession I chose because I always felt drawn to helping people, healing people. But in truth, I never realized how much I needed healing myself. From the outside, my life looked solid, stable, a good job, a beautiful son, a husband who worked hard to provide for us. We had a little apartment near the old part of the city, with terracotta rooftops and the distant sound of church bells on Sunday mornings. But deep down, I was tired. Not just physically, soul tired. I would smile at patients, hold their hands as they faced death, whisper prayers in silence. But I didn't know if I really believed those prayers myself. I believed in God. I always had. I grew up in church. I knew the verses, the hymns, the stories. But over time, it all became routine, empty. I'd pray, but I wasn't sure if he was listening. And every time I woke up between 3 and 5 a.m., that doubt grew louder. Was God trying to reach me? Was I missing something? I started searching. Not publicly, but in private. Late at night, I'd Google things like, why do I wake up at 3 a.m.? Spiritual meaning of 3 to 5 a.m. waking. God waking me up? Some articles said it was the body's natural rhythm. Others claimed it was demonic. A few said it was the Holy Spirit trying to speak. But none of it gave me peace. I didn't realize that what was coming would answer all those questions, and many I hadn't even dared to ask. I didn't know that my heart, heavy with confusion and spiritual hunger, was being prepared for something eternal. What about you? Have you ever felt spiritually distant even when your life seemed fine? Have you ever smiled in public while questioning everything in private? Let me know in the comments. Your honesty might encourage someone else who's hiding the same struggle. It was an ordinary Tuesday. I had just finished a long night shift at the hospital. I remember the fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic, and the hum of machines still ringing in my ears. I was exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones. But I didn't want to waste the day sleeping. My son had a school play that afternoon, and I promised I'd be there. So I got in my car and drove home, hoping to grab just an hour of rest. The skies were gray that morning, like Lisbon was holding its breath. I turned on the radio. Soft worship music was playing. I remember the lyrics almost prophetically clear. Even in the valley, you are with me. That's when it happened. I was just a few blocks from home, driving down a quiet street I knew by heart. There were no cars ahead, no distractions, but I blinked, just for a second, maybe two. The kind of blink you do when you're too tired to be behind a wheel. And then, impact. A deafening crash. Screeching metal. The sound of shattering glass exploding around me like gunfire. Time slowed. I felt my body jerk violently as another car slammed into the side of mine. My head hit the window. Pain shot through my chest. I couldn't breathe. Everything went white. Not black, white. I remember thinking, am I dying? But the thought didn't come with fear. It came with release. The pain disappeared in an instant. The panic faded. The sound of the world, the horns, the shouting, the sirens, all of it went silent, as if someone had turned down the volume knob of reality. And in that moment, I felt it. I was no longer in my body. Have you or someone you love ever been in a life-threatening situation that made you question what lies beyond this life? Share in the comments. Don't hold back. Someone out there needs to read your story. Feeling death, when the body fades and the soul awakens. I didn't feel myself hit the ground. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel fear. What I did feel was peace. A kind of peace I never knew existed on Earth. I was no longer inside my body. That realization didn't come with panic. It came with awe. I was hovering just above the accident scene, weightless, without effort. It was like I had become a breath, a whisper, a presence. Below me, I saw my car, a mangled mess of steel and glass. People were running, someone screamed, another was dialing emergency services, and then I saw myself, my body, limp, bleeding, eyes shut. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. Instead, I felt free. It's strange to explain, but I didn't think in that moment the way we think here. Thoughts were clearer, faster, full of emotion and understanding all at once. There was no confusion. I knew what was happening. I had died. But it didn't feel like an end. It felt like a beginning. Around me, the world had become silent. Not the kind of silence you hear when a room is empty, but a holy silence, as if the entire universe was holding its breath. I looked around, expecting darkness. But there was none. No tunnel, no shadows, only a soft glow, surrounding me like a gentle mist. It wasn't a blinding light. It was warm, inviting, alive. And in that light, I felt known, fully known, not judged, not shamed, but seen. And then something even more incredible happened. I started remembering things, not just from my life, but things I had forgotten my soul knew. It was like my spirit had been asleep, and now it was wide awake. I knew I was no longer bound by time. I wasn't breathing, but I was more alive than I had ever been. And in the distance, something was approaching, something sacred. Brinai, have you ever felt something you couldn't explain? Like a dream, a vision, or a moment when you sensed something beyond this world? Tell me in the comments. Your experience may be more important than you think. Floating outside my body, peace, silence, and the awakening of something greater. There are no words in any human language that can fully describe what it felt like to float outside my body. But I will try because you need to know. Imagine being wrapped in the softest light you've ever seen. Not a light that blinds you, but one that seems to love you. Every particle of it carried peace. Every color had emotion. I wasn't standing on anything, but I wasn't falling either. I was held, suspended in eternity. The air, if you could call it that, felt alive. It vibrated with an energy that didn't buzz like electricity. It sang. It was like the space around me was made of worship, silent, but full of praise. I wasn't alone. I could sense it. There were other presences, not close yet, but watching with love. They didn't scare me. In fact, I wanted to move closer to them. I longed for it, like a child who sees a light in the distance and knows it's home. And then, the questions I had carried for years, those silent, painful questions, began to fade. Not because they were answered yet, but because in that realm, they didn't feel heavy anymore. I wasn't worried about bills, or time, or expectations. I wasn't trying to prove myself. There was no shame. Do you understand what that means? No shame, no guilt, no anxiety. Just being loved. And then, as I drifted through this sacred stillness, I became aware of something enormous. Not in size, but in presence. Like the sun had entered the room without burning anything. It was drawing near. I felt my spirit straighten, as if preparing for royalty. And my heart whispered, "He's coming." Asana. Have you ever felt unconditional love, even for a moment? A love that didn't ask you to earn it? Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about what real peace and love feel like. The encounter with Jesus, a presence of love beyond words. I didn't see him at first. I felt him. Long before my eyes could comprehend anything, my soul reacted, like a child recognizing the voice of their father after years of being lost. It wasn't fear. It was overwhelming awe. The light that had surrounded me suddenly began to shift, growing brighter, warmer, holier. Everything around me responded to his presence. The very space I was floating in seemed to bow. And then, He stepped forward. I didn't need anyone to tell me who he was. I knew. My spirit knew. This was Jesus. But not the stained glass Jesus. Not the painting on the church wall. Not the Jesus I thought I knew. This was love, personified. Love so intense, so alive, so pure, I could hardly withstand it. His eyes met mine, and in that single gaze, he saw everything. Every sin, every doubt, every regret, every silent cry. Every time I woke up at 3:15 a.m. whispering, "God, are you there?" And yet there was no judgment in his eyes. Only love, only love. He walked toward me, not with words, but with presence. Every step drew me deeper into peace. Every movement filled me with meaning. And when he finally stood in front of me, I collapsed. Not out of fear, but because my soul couldn't handle the weight of his beauty. I didn't speak with my mouth. I spoke from the deepest place within me. I didn't ask questions with words. They flowed from my spirit. And still, he answered. He called me by name, not Rachel, but a name I somehow remembered, one that only heaven knew, a name that made me feel like I had always belonged, like I had never been forgotten, not for a single second. Then Jesus reached out his hand. The moment his light touched mine, I felt every wound inside me begin to heal, every childhood pain, every adult failure, every betrayal, every lonely night. He didn't tell me he loved me. I became love. And then, in that sacred silence, he spoke to me. His voice wasn't just sound, it was truth itself. When he speaks, reality obeys. Time bows. Creation listens. And he said, "You've asked me why you keep waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. It is not random. It is not insomnia. It is me. I've been calling you." I couldn't breathe. Tears, not of sorrow, but of holy recognition, fell from my soul. He continued, "That window of time is when the veil is thinnest, between the spiritual and the physical. It is when many souls are most still, most open, most reachable. I've been waking you up because I want to speak with you, because I love you, because I've chosen you." And then he showed me something I will never forget. Have you ever wondered if Jesus is trying to reach you, even in the silence of the night? Tell me in the comments. What would you say to him if you knew he was listening at 3 a.m.? The divine revelation, why you wake between 3 and 5 a.m. I was standing before Jesus, completely undone, completely known. His eyes never left mine. They didn't need to. In his gaze, I felt eternity stretch open, and everything inside me just surrendered. That's when he showed me, not with words, not with images as we know them, but with revelation. A download of pure truth that struck every fiber of my being. "Rachel," he said, "the time between 3 and 5 a.m. is not just quiet, it is sacred. The world is most silent then. The noise of your thoughts slows. The spiritual realm is more accessible. My spirit moves freely in those hours, searching, calling, awakening." He paused, and I felt his sorrow as he said, "But few are listening." In an instant, he opened my understanding, and I saw it. A vision of countless people across the world lying awake at 3:11, 3:47, 4:18, staring at the ceiling, restless, anxious, confused. Some turned to their phones. Others cried quietly into pillows. Many just lay there, feeling something but not knowing what. "It is me," Jesus said, calling their names in the dark, stirring their hearts, whispering purpose. He showed me that between 3 and 5 a.m., the veil between heaven and earth is thinner, not by accident but by divine design. Angels are dispatched in those hours. Dreams become portals. Prayers become weapons. "I wake my warriors," he said, "while the world sleeps." I saw intercessors rising from beds, led not by alarm clocks but by the Spirit, knees hitting the floor, tongues praying in silence, mothers praying for sons, pastors crying out for revival, children whispering prayers they didn't even understand. And I saw demonic forces retreating, shrinking, stumbling back into the shadows, not because of volume, but because of authority. Authority given in the stillness, Jesus said. And then he looked into me again, and what he said next hit me harder than anything I'd ever heard. "I've been waking you up for years, not to punish your sleep, but to prepare your soul. And now I want you to tell them." My lips trembled. "Tell who?" "Everyone who will listen," he said. "Tell them I am calling. Tell them I've been waiting. Tell them 3 a.m. is not a curse, it's an invitation to intimacy, to intercession, to transformation. When I wake them up, they must respond. And in that moment, I felt it, the weight of a mission, a holy urgency. I knew when I returned, I couldn't stay silent. Have you ever ignored those early morning wake-ups, thinking they were just random? Could it be Jesus calling your name like he called mine? Let me know in the comments. And if he's been waking you too, what will you do next time? A prophetic vision, the warning that shook my soul. After Jesus spoke those words, I thought the revelation was over. But then, he turned, and when he did, the atmosphere around us shifted. The warmth of peace gave way to a sense of holy trembling. Not fear, not dread, but urgency. The kind of weight that tells your spirit, what you're about to see is not just for you. Jesus raised his hand, and suddenly, I saw it. A vision opened before me, the earth, suspended like a fragile globe in his palm, and what I saw unfolding across it gripped me to the core. I saw cities glowing with artificial light, but spiritually dark. People with phones in their hands, but empty eyes. Families sitting together, but completely disconnected. Churches, some full, some empty, but many asleep. And then I saw something terrifying. Dark waves, like smoke, rising from the earth and spreading over nations. Whispers, lies, division, confusion, hearts turning cold, truth being twisted, faith being mocked. The spirit of deception is growing, Jesus said, and my people are not prepared. I saw people waking up at 3 a.m., stirred in their spirits but ignoring it, scrolling, complaining, distracted, and I saw what was coming. A shaking, a great shaking, not just political or economic, but spiritual, something global. A time when the strength of human systems would fail, and only those rooted in me would stand. I am calling my children to rise, he said, to intercede, to repent, to wake up before the world does. Then I saw flashes of fire falling on certain places, not destructive fire, but holy fire. Homes, bedrooms, churches, prisons, people falling on their knees at 3:27 a.m., 4:03 a.m., 4:44 a.m., weeping, praying, surrendering. And from those places, revival began to burn. This hour is critical, Jesus said. The enemy is loud, but I am not silent. I am still speaking, in the early hours, to those who will listen. And then he looked at me again. Tell them, Rachel. Tell them I'm coming soon. And before I return, I am calling my bride to awaken. This is the hour of decision. At that moment, the vision faded, and I fell at his feet, undone, shaking, burning with a mission I never asked for, but now could never ignore. Have you felt this shift in the world? Do you sense that something greater is happening beneath the surface? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discern this time together. Don't stay silent. A prophetic vision, the warning that shook my soul. After Jesus spoke those words, I thought the revelation was over. But then, he turned. And when he did, the atmosphere around us shifted. The warmth of peace gave way to a sense of holy trembling. Not fear, not dread, but urgency. The kind of weight that tells your spirit, what you're about to see is not just for you. Jesus raised his hand, and suddenly I saw it. A vision opened before me. The earth, suspended like a fragile globe in his palm. And what I saw unfolding across it gripped me to the core. I saw cities glowing with artificial light, but spiritually dark. People with phones in their hands, but empty eyes. Families sitting together, but completely disconnected. Churches, some full, some empty, but many asleep. And then I saw something terrifying. Dark waves, like smoke, rising from the earth and spreading over nations. Whispers, lies, division, confusion, hearts turning cold, truth being twisted, faith being mocked. The spirit of deception is growing, Jesus said, and my people are not prepared. I saw people waking up at 3 a.m., stirred in their spirits but ignoring it, scrolling, complaining, distracted, and I saw what was coming, a shaking, a great shaking, not just political or economic, but spiritual, something global, a time when the strength of human systems would fail, and only those rooted in me would stand. I am calling my children to rise, he said, to intercede, to repent, to wake up, before the world does. Then I saw flashes of fire falling on certain places, not destructive fire, but holy fire. Homes, bedrooms, churches, prisons, people falling on their knees at 3:27 a.m., 4:03 a.m., 4:44 a.m., weeping, praying, surrendering. And from those places, revival began to burn. This hour is critical, Jesus said. The enemy is loud, but I am not silent. I am still speaking, in the early hours, to those who will listen. And then he looked at me again. Tell them, Rachel. Tell them I'm coming soon. And before I return, I am calling my bride to awaken. This is the hour of decision. At that moment, the vision faded, and I fell at his feet, undone, shaking, burning with a mission I never asked for, but now could never ignore. Have you felt this shift in the world? Do you sense that something greater is happening beneath the surface? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discern this time together. Don't stay silent. Why you're watching this, and what you must do now. If you're still watching this, if your heart is pounding, if your eyes are tearing up, if you've been waking up at 3:17 or 4:04 and didn't know why, this message was for you. Not by coincidence, not by YouTube's algorithm, not because someone shared it, but because heaven wanted your attention. Jesus didn't just save my life. He sent me back with one mission, to wake up the sleepers. And right now, I'm looking at you through this screen, and I need to ask you, are you tired of pretending you're fine while your soul feels numb? Have you been feeling the world change and deep down you know time is short? Have you been waking up between 3 and 5 a.m., sensing something but never understanding what it was? Now you know. It's him. Jesus is calling you in the silence, in the stillness, not to scare you, but to prepare you, to draw you closer, to pour his spirit into you before the shaking comes. Because make no mistake, the shaking is coming, but so is the revival. And you were born for such a time as this. So now the question is no longer, why am I waking up at 3 a.m.? The real question is, will I answer him when he calls? I want you to do two things right now. 1. Tell me in the comments, what has God been showing you in the early hours? Have you felt him calling you too? 2. Type this in bold as your declaration. I will answer when he calls. Let's flood the comments with faith, with fire, with testimonies. Because this isn't just a story, it's a movement, and it starts with you. The call has been sent, now it's your turn to answer. I came back from the dead with a fire in my bones. A fire that no doubt, no fear, no criticism could extinguish. Because when you've stood before Jesus, when you've felt the love that sees you completely and still calls you worthy, when you've heard him speak your name in a place where no lie can exist, you are never the same again. And now I'm passing that fire to you. Not my emotions, not my opinion, but his message. If you've been waking up between 3 and 5 a.m., this is your confirmation. You're not being disturbed. You're being invited. You were chosen for something greater, to intercede, to awaken others, to hear from heaven before the world begins to stir. And let me tell you something with all the authority that heaven gave me. You are not crazy. You are not alone. You are not imagining this. He's calling you. And he's not calling perfect people. He's calling the available, the wounded, the hungry, the honest. So what now? Will you go back to sleep? Spiritually numb? Spiritually deaf? Or will you kneel when he stirs you? Will you pray when he whispers your name in the dark? Because that moment between 3 and 5 a.m. might just be your burning bush, your upper room, your divine encounter. I want to hear your voice. I want to see a movement begin in the comments. Tell me below, what is God stirring in your heart right now? Have you had experiences during those early morning hours that you never told anyone about? Are you ready to say yes to the call? Comment, I will rise when he calls. I will not sleep through my destiny. And if this message touched you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for the fire God is igniting in this generation. Turn on the bell so you never miss what heaven wants to release next. Someone you know needs to hear this. Share it. Send it. Be bold. This is not entertainment. This is your wake-up call. Jesus is near. Time is short. And the hour of awakening is now. You're not here by accident. You're being called into the fire. Answer him. While it's still night,